Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Habayim. Welcome. We're continuing in Mishna Berura, Daf HaShavua. We are learning Siman Samach, Sif Daled. Sif Daled is a epic Sif. Yesh Oimrim she'ein mitzvos tzrichas Kavana. Some say mitzvos do not require Kavana. What does that mean? Some say that even if you're not mechavein to do this act as a mitzvah, you just say Shema. You don't think why you're saying Shema. You don't think I'm saying Shema to fulfill a mitzvah. You just say it. Some say that's good enough. Who are these some? Toisus and Rabbeinu Yonah. They hold mitzvahs don't need kavana. V'yesh amrim shetzrichos kavana. Lotzeis ba'asiyas oisa mitzvah. Some say mitzvahs need kavana to be yotzei by performing that mitzvah. V'chein halacha. And similarly, that's the halacha. So some say mitzvahs don't need kavana, and some say mitzvahs need kavana. Says the... and who's the shita mitzvahs need kavana? The Bahag and the Rosh in the third parak of Rosh Hashanah. And that's the halacha. The halacha is mitzvos require kavana. Says the Mishna Berura. Now it's interesting. The shita that mitzvos need kavana now the shita that mitzvos need kavana is midairaisa. It's not a rabbinic requirement. It's midairaisa. The Rashbam writes this in Psachim, the Bir Halacha says, and Daf Kuf Yadanu Mebeis, and that's what the Gemara in Psachim is mashma. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah Daf Chav Chesed Mebeis says Zichroin Shruah Ksiv. That implies they argue about a dairaisa. Now, the Bir Halacha says that the machloikis whether mitzvah tzrichas kavana is by shar mitzvahs. Any mitzvah which is tolei ba'achila, like eating a kazayis of matzah or a kazayis in the sukkah, the opinion of the Shulchan Aruch later on in Siman Taf Ayin Hey is your yotzei b'diavad even if you're not mechavein. Meaning, the shita of the mechaber is when it comes to eating b'diavad, mitzvahs, everyone agrees mitzvahs ain't tzrichas kavana. The Bach is machmer even there. Now, now the Bir Halacha says a whopper of a chiddush, that if you look in the Bach, it's mashma that tzitzis kavana is ma'akev. According to that, if they call you up for an aliyah and you take a talis, you take your own talis, or the talis of the kahal, so mistama you're not mechavein to be mekayim the mitzvah. You're over and isser da'iraisa of being mavato naseh. If you throw a talis on you to get an aliyah, you're over a da'iraisa. Why? Because you're not wearing daled kamfais. Yeah, but I am. No, you're not. The mitzvah is not to put forward tzitzis. The mitzvah is to mekayim the mitzvah of tzitzis. And you're not mekayim the mitzvah. Because mitzvah is gavana. You're over naseh. Va'olam einu nimzharim b'zeh, says the Bir Halacha. He says it could be, their reason is that since they don't want to wear the talis then, and they're not wearing it only because of Kavana Torah, this is not a wearing that requires tzitzis. So what should you do? He says you should follow the Shari Ephraim that we learned earlier in Siman Yudalid, Sif Gimel, in the Bir Halacha, which is... you should take a borrowed talis. Whenever you get an aliyah, better to take a borrowed talis. This way you don't violate a dairaisa. Nothing to do with checking. It has to do with being, if you're not mechavin for the mitzvah, you might be mavato naseh. Now this is very interesting. So then it would come out, Rabbi say, two things. It would come out that if you take your own talis, and let's say a guy puts on his talis in the morning, and he doesn't explicitly think I'm being mekayim the mitzvah of tzitzis, not only is he not being mekayim the mitzvah of tzitzis, he's mavatel a mitzvah d'oraisa. He's over an avera. Why? He's wearing a beged of daled kanfos without tzitzis, not without tzitzis, without being mekayim the mitzvah of tzitzis. You hear this? It comes out. If you're not mechavein to mekayim the mitzvah of tzitzis, besides not being yotzei the mitzvah of tzitzis, you're over an isser. You're over an isser d'oraisa of wearing a beged. This now, what would be if somebody ate in a sukkah and he wasn't mechavein to be mekayim in the mitzvah? Then perhaps you're over an avera of eating outside of a sukkah. The only thing is that the Bir Halacha started when it comes to mitzvahs of achila. B'diavad the mechaber paskins mitzvahs ein tzrichos kavana. That's the redeeming factor over here. Now, the first Bir Halacha on this Seif says, some say mitzvos don't need kavana. The Bir Halacha says whether you do it yourself and you're not mecham to be yotzei, or let's say you heard Megillah or Shofar and you were not mechavein to mekayim the mitzvah, or any mitzvah that's Toy Ba'amira. If you say Shema and you didn't stop and think, I have kavana to mekayim the mitzvah of Shema. You might be a good Jew. You might do other good deeds. You were not mekayim the mitzvah of Shema. Or if you bench, hello friends, you ever hear there's something called benching? If you don't think before you bench explicitly, I'm mechavein to mekayim the mitzvah of Birchas Hamazon, you are not yotzei the mitzvah. Lahalacha. It's not a chumrah. Midairaisa, you're not yotzei the mitzvah. That's how we paskin.
But isn't tzitzis and sukkah different? In other words, you might not be over the mitzvah, but you're not over an avera. Mitzias, you're sitting in a sukkah. Mitzias, you have tzitzis on it.
There's no mitzvah in the Torah to have a mitzias of sukkah. The chiyuv is to be mekayim the mitzvah. So if you're not mekayim the mitzvah, you're over the isser. That's what that is what the Bir Halacha says. Yeah, you could have made the case not like that. You could have argued that I'm not mevatel tzitzis. I have tzitzis on my four-cornered garment. I'm not eating out of this. I'm in a sukkah. But the way Bir Halacha understands it is there is no inyan of having strings on the corner of the beged. The inyan is to mekayim a mitzvah by putting strings. But if you're not mechavein, you're not mekayim the mitzvah. You're not mekayim the mitzvah, you're mevatel the mitzvah. It's a chidush, but that's what the Bir Halacha says.
The Mishna Berura says several places that if you only the Maisa shows it's only the mitzvah, then it's good enough for Kavana.
We'll see. Pashtus, according to the Rishonim, there's no such svara. We'll see tomorrow, Monday, there's such a kula the Chai Adam. Pashtus, if you're not mechavein to mekayim the mitzvah, by tzitzis, it comes out every morning. If you don't think before you put on your talis, or then by the way, then it would come out. You ready for this? Here's a bigger chiddush. I don't think people do this. A married person doesn't even make a bracha on the talis katan, so they just throw it on in the morning. According to the Mishna Berura, if you're mevatel a mitzvah, it's an avera. It's an avera to put on the tzitzis because you're not making mekayim the mitzvah. If you're not making mekayim the mitzvah, so it comes out, Rabbi Say, when you're mechavein to mekayim the mitzvah of talis in the morning, you should think, I'm also having in mind on my tzitzis. Now the question is, yeah, but what about the 45 minutes that you wore the tzitzis before you did that? So you should make a t'nai now, that every time you put on, think right now, whenever I put on my tzitzis, I want it to be l'shem mitzvah. Now, it might not help that you get the mitzvah, but maybe at least you don't get yesh ladon b'zeh. Now,
the same way that you're only wearing a talis for the Kavana Tzibur, the Kavana Torah. So why else? It's not a levisha that I'm putting on this garment to wear. I'm putting it on for tefillah. I'm putting on l'shem mitzvah's talis, l'shem mitzvah's tzitzis.
No, maybe you're doing it not to be embarrassed, that you don't look like a Amaretz Gamor, that you're going up for an aliyah. Pashtus, you're not mechavin for the mitzvah. You're just doing it
by an aliyah, right?
Yeah.
That's where by an aliyah.
Yeah.
So when I'm putting on, so my regular talis that I'm putting on for davening, why else am I putting on this talis? It's not a garment that I wear all day. It's a garment that I wear for tefillah.
Good svara. But the shita of Mitzvos Trichos Kavana says that that's not good enough. It's not good enough that why else am I doing it? There's a dinda oiraisa. You have to explicitly think you're doing it l'shemit. That's the shita of Mitzvos Trichos Kavana. Now the Bir Halacha says another important factor. That is something that only has amira. According to everyone, you need kavana. Now, if you're mesasek, then even the shita mitzvah ein tzrichas kavana would say you're not yotze. For example, a guy is fooling around with a shofar and he's practicing. Even the man that amar mitzvah ein tzrichas kavana, you would not be yotze. Another thing, if you didn't even know that you were chayiv in the mitzvah, let's say a guy is picking up a lulav on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, of Sukkot, and he thinks it's Erev Sukkot. So even the shita of mitzvahs ein tzrichas kavana would hold you're not yotze. Okay, so these are a few factors. Let's see the Mishna Berura. Yei shoymim, da, lefi ha-mitzvah min ha-poskim, shnei kavanas yesh la-mitzvah. There are two kavanas needed. Number one, achas kavanas alev la-mitzvah atzvah. One is kavana for the mitzvah itself. For example, Kriya Shema. To think, I'm now saying, here Klal Yisrael, Hashem is our God, Hashem is one. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about here, when we say Mitzvos Trichas Kavana, we're not talking about an understanding and an awareness of the meaning of the mitzvah. We're talking specifically about a specific kavana to be yoitze that mitzvah. V'shenis kavana lotzisba. Dahainu she'echavin l'kayim b'zeh kashatziva Hashem. The second kavana is to be mechavin, to mekayim what Hashem commanded. K'may shekatzel abach b'siman ches. V'kavanas ha-mitzvah shenizgar b'zeh hasif ein toli klal b'kavanas alil mitzvah atzah. We're not talking about here not spacing out. We're not talking about thinking about what you're saying, not getting distracted. That, according to everyone, you should have kavana. V'diavad, I'm like kiven yasem. But diavad, if you're not mechavin, you're yaitze. Levad mi pasuk rishon shel kriya shema, except for the first pasuk of Shema u'berachos avos shel tefillah, and the first brachos shema esrog v'yishmar lekaman. What we're talking about is rak shemechulakim be'inyan chayiv lechavin koidem shemaschel hamitzvah lotzeis v'asiyas oisa mitzvah. What we're talking about is a specific thought. I am now being hineni muchan u'mezuman to be mekayim this mitzvah. And if you don't, you're not yotzei. What else am I doing? Why else did I wake up an hour earlier? Frank came to work at 9 o'clock. He got up at 8:45. I got to work at 9 o'clock, and I got up at 6 because I went to shul. Guess what? You didn't do anything more than Frank. You spent the whole morning in shul, and you did nothing. You didn't say Shema. You didn't say Berachas HaTorah. You didn't say Shema. Nothing. You didn't do anything. You didn't put on a talis, and you didn't wear tefillin. Because you didn't think before you did the mitzvah, hineni. Now, let's say, what mitzvahs are there in the morning? Number one, Berachas HaTorah is a mitzvah. L'chayra, we'll have to talk, before you say Berachas HaTorah, which is a mitzvah, right, you have to have in mind, I'm being mekayim the mitzvah Berachas HaTorah. Number two, talis. Number three, tefillin. Number four, kriya shema. Number five, zechiras yitzias mitzrayim. Those are the 5 da'iraisas that you do. Another one, a 6th, avas Hashem in Kriya Shema. Those are 6 da'iraisas that you do. If you don't have in mind that you're being mekayim it, you could be a nice guy. You lost 2 hours of sleep. Maybe you showed you're a good-hearted person. You wanted to serve God. But it's like, I always say, let's say a woman comes to shul, she puts a doily on her head. She covering her hair? No. She's paying homage to the ancient custom of the Hebrews where women cover their hair. So people come to shul in the morning and they put on talis and they put on tefillin and they do mitzvahs and they don't think before each mitzvah, being mekayim this mitzvah, they're paying homage to the ancient custom of the Hebrews who used to do mitzvahs. You're not yet on the level to actually do them, but at least you respect the practice of the ancient Hebrews. Okay, that's how we paskin. Yeah, that's if you say it. But what if you hold like no, you're not allowed to say it? So then you still have to think it. I don't say l'shem yichud. Mishna Berura doesn't bring down l'shem yichud. Mishna Berura does bring down hini muchan u'mazuman. The Malbim in the Arz HaSachayim says that it's already become widespread to say it. But still, Minhagei Yeshiva says, Lav dafka to say l'shem yichud. You're right. If you say it, you have an advantage. But I'll tell you another thing. If you say it, and you have absolutely no idea what it means, then you didn't do anything either. Because the objective is to think before you do the mitzvah that you're being mekayim the mitzvah. When you rattle off l'shem yichud, like you'd be saying, an ancient incantation on like a stew, then that's also, you're not going to be fulfill the mitzvah, the inyan of, okay. Now, do you have to do the mitzvah again? Of course you do. You do. If you know right now, hello, if this morning, when you put on tefillin, you didn't think, I'm being mekayim the mitzvah tefillin, right after this year, you have to put on your tefillin again. It's not a chumrah. You have to do it. If you didn't think it when you put on your tzitzis, you don't have to put it on again because you're wearing it, so just think it now. Okay, we paskin tzrichas kavana, and you got to do it again. Now we'll see Monday. There's a kula here that the Chayyim says that b'diavad you can rely on the fact that why else are you doing it? We'll see when that applies. But again, it's b'diavad. It's not l'chadchila. So when you get upstairs, they might say, "Hey, what are you doing here? You didn't do any mitzvahs." And you have to find the page in the Mishna Berura where there might be a kula. I'm telling you, you don't want to have to come on to that. You want to get right in. You want quick entry. Now, ula mitzvah kavana kedisa b'nadarim. Even the shita of mitzvahs ein tzrichas kavana holds the chatchila you should have kavana. Like Rabbi Lezer, like we find in Nadarim, Rabbi Lezer Mat Tzedek Omer, Asay dvarim l'shem payalam. Do mitzvahs for the one who created you, for the one who commanded you. V'nemar batihi yarasam oisi mitzvahs anashim ulamada. Hashem criticized Klal Yisrael that your fear of me is by rote. Chumash kasav agra al hadi isa b'simin ches ayin sham. Weiter, shetzrichas kavana ve'im loy kivein latzei tzedei chavas v'siyas mitzvah yatzim and Torah. If you are not mechavein to be yotzei, you're not yotzei midaraisa. V'tzarach lachzor u'lasos, you got to do it again. What if you say, "Hey, I'm not sure this morning when I put on my tefillin if I was mechavein to be mekayim mitzvah tefillin," or I said Shema, I'm not sure if I had in mind specifically that I'm mechavein to get in the mitzvah shah. Guess what? It's a suffix deraisa. You also have to do it again. Even if you're not sure if you had kavana, you have to do it again. Imhu mitzvah deraisa sveika lechumra. Kein kasav prima gadam b'sim tavkov peitas ayin sham v'nerali delo yivarich azal mitzvah. Don't make a bracha. Why? Because even if you definitely didn't have kavana, there are opinions that you don't make another bracha. Let's start the next sifkatan. Lotzeis. You have to have kavana lotzeis. Lefika chatokeh l'slam. It's someone who's blowing shofar to practice. Let's say you're teaching kids how to bench. You also were chayvin benching v'shachach oz l'skavin lotzeis ba'gam kein avor atza. You forgot to mecham for yourself. V'chein kagavin v'chol ha'mitzvah shasam l'shum eza inyan lo yatzadei chavasai. Now it's interesting. Why does the Mishna Berura say, an example of not having kavana latzeis is? Someone who is blowing to practice or someone who is benching with katanim. What about a guy who is spacing out and he just didn't think to be mekayim? I think the reason is because of the next thing. That the Taz holds that if you're blowing to practice or teaching kids, you're not yotzei, even according to the shita mitzvos ein tzrichas kavana, because it's like beferish having in mind not to be yotzei. But granted, if you don't explicitly think, you're also not yotzei. And another reason why the Mishna Berura says this case is because in this case you won't be able to rely on the kula we'll learn about on Monday, that why else am I doing it? So you don't have that kula. V'ayin betaz v'sim tav peites shemucham medvar d'amavarchim k'tanim anal la yatsa afilu man da'amar mitzvos ein tzrichas kavana da'havik k'mechavin befeira shalai latzeis. So I'll let you think about the following question. A guy disturbed you in the middle of davening and you gave him $1, but you didn't think, I'm mechavin to mekayim the mitzvah of tzedakah. So now what? Now I don't get a mitzvah, I also wasted my money? Let's say a guy gave meiser and he wasn't mechavein to mekayim the mitzvah of tzedakah. Does he have to give another 10%? The answer is no. Tzedakah does not require, bein adam chaver does not require kavana. Mitzvah, the shita of mitzvah strichas kavana does not apply bein adam chaveroi. Why? Because your friend doesn't care what you're thinking, he just wants the money. What does your friend care what you're thinking? You're a mahana your friend. The mitzvah is not the act, the mitzvah is the result. So therefore, let's say by mila, is the mitzvah the act or is the mitzvah the result? If the mitzvah is the result, also mila might not need kavana. Because he's gemalt. So the Marsha asks, so why was Nakdima and Ben Gurion punished that he did chesed for his own kavod? Who cares? Mitzvos, tzedakah, kavana is not important. And then the Marsha says that it's not true, that he doesn't agree with this yesod, that you would need kavana by tzedakah. So it's not so pashat. It's not so pashat. Rabbi Glatstein, have a great day.